Hello everyone, I am Jubel Ochige and my report will be about the book Being and Nothingness by John Paul Sartre. This book. And existence precedes essence. This is the central thesis of the book. It is very important that we keep this in mind as we go through the slides because this is the main thing that John Paul Sartre wants to tell us. This is the key to understanding this book. So we will understand this statement as we go along. So for the contents, it has an introduction and it is followed by the 4 parts of the book. For the introduction, the pursuit of being. In here, Sartre rejects the traditional idea of a hidden essence of things or the noumenal reality. As if we recall, no? Kant was talking about the noumenal reality, wherein because we are limited by our minds, we can never really know the thing in themselves, but just their appearance, which is why it's written here, hidden essence of things. But here, Sartre does not agree with Kant, no? Here he rejects that idea, that concept. He says, dualism of being and appearance is no longer entitled to any legal status within philosophy. The appearance refers to the total series of appearances and not to a hidden reality. Furthermore, he says, for the being of an existent is exactly what it appears. That is why we can equally well reject the dualism of appearance and essence. The appearance does not hide the essence. It reveals it. It is the essence. So here it's very clear that Sartre wants to say that the appearance of the thing is really what it is. No? If it appears to be a chair, it is a chair. No? It's not hiding something else which we cannot perceive or know. It is what it is. Also, he says that consciousness is always intentional. Consciousness is consciousness of something. This means that transcendence is the constitutive structure of consciousness. That is, that consciousness is born supported by a being which is not itself. In order to understand this, we can represent it like this. There's consciousness, our consciousness. There's always that intentionality. It is always directed toward something, our consciousness. Also, there are 2 types of being: the being in itself and the being for itself. The being in itself is the being of objects, the being of chairs, plates, objects. It is solid, it is complete, it lacks consciousness, it is defined. Defined. While on the other hand, the being for itself is the being of human consciousness, the being of our consciousness. Its essence is nothingness, the ability to negate reality. To further understand this, we can have this example. Example, for the being in itself, we have this gray or black square. It is complete. It is defined. It has 4 equal sides. Its color is black. It is a shape. It is defined. It is solid. It's complete. Well, on the other hand, the being for itself is that. It's already it. This blank space. There's nothing in there. The best way to describe it is not by not putting anything. It's nothing. There's nothing there. So the first part talks about the problem of nothingness. This part explores how nothingness enters the world. Consciousness brings negation, difference, and the ability to question into pure being. What does this mean? In the first chapter, it talks about the origin of nothingness. It is the ability to ask questions or negate a given reality, which is the core of consciousness. This power of negation is what makes the for itself fundamentally different from the in itself. So basically, this is their difference between the two beings, no? Two types of being. Second chapter talks about bad faith. It is the self-deception, specifically the act of denying one's radical freedom and responsibility. People act in bad faith when they treat themselves as mere objects, which has the being of in itself, no? Defined by their roles, that is, as the example here in the book, like a waiter defined by his occupation, rather than as free subjects for itself, with infinite possibilities. We'll come to understand this paragraph better, no, as we go on through the slides, as we understand Sartre's notion of freedom, but we can explain a little bit here, no, that it's important here to understand that our being, the essence of our being, is nothingness. So it has infinite possibilities, no? When we were born, Sartre wants to say this, when we were born, we are not defined by anything. No, you are nothing. Nothing can tell you who you are, or this is who you are. No, we are. We have infinite possibilities. That is our being, which is very different from the being of the objects, which is defined. Now, what he says here is that bad faith is specifically the act of denying one's radical freedom and responsibility. Because we are radically free, no? We are totally free. No one can tell us this is what you should do. You are this person. This is your end. This is your telos. No, there's no such thing. That's why we are radically free. And because of this, we have the responsibility. We have to own up to our actions. We are responsible of our actions because we cannot blame others of the decisions that we have made, no? Just for example, Adam, no? When the Lord asked him, "Oh Adam, why did you eat the fruit that I forbid you?" Adam immediately said, "Oh, it's because of the woman. It's because of the woman who gave it to me." Well, in the context of bad faith, Sartre would say that Adam has a bad faith because Adam, as a human being, is totally free. No, he's totally free to say no to the woman, to Eve, but in the end, he still ate the fruit. So, because he is totally free, then he should also be responsible for his actions, for his decisions. He cannot blame Eve for his actions. The act of washing the hands, the act of blaming others, that's what you call bad faith. To proceed for the second part, the being for itself. This section focuses on the nature of human consciousness and its unique characteristics. The first three chapters speaks about immediate structures, temporality, and transcendence. The being for itself exists as a dynamic, fluid, and incomplete project directed toward the future. No, this is our being. We are nothing, and it is fluid. It can be anything. No? Infinite possibilities. Human reality is characterized by temporality, existing as past, present, and future, which means we live through time. And facticity, the unchangeable facts about one's life, like one's past actions or birth circumstances. the things that we cannot change, no? That we are born in this city, or we were born at this time, no? These are the things that we cannot change. These are facts. Part 3, being for others. This part introduces intersubjectivity and the role of other people in shaping our experience of self. The first chapter speaks about the existence of others. The presence of another person is experienced through the look or the regard. When someone looks at us, we become an object in their world, losing our subjective freedom and experiencing a sense of shame or alienation. For example, someone looks at us with a malicious intent, no? They look like they're angry or they have a bad intention towards us. So we feel a sense of shame because we feel like they are objectifying us, no? We become an object in their own world, no? That's why we feel violated. We feel like we are not free. No? It says here, losing our subjective freedom, we become objects of their own world. Now, Sartre explores how we try to manage this objectification. Human relationships are inherently conflictual. We struggle between trying to assimilate the other's freedom or allowing ourselves to be consumed by it. But these efforts are ultimately futile attempts to escape the instability of the self-other dynamic. So Sartre is trying to tell us here that there is an unstable relationship between the self and the other. No? When we look at the other, they become the object of our consciousness. At the same time, when they look at us, we become the object of their consciousness. And sometimes we don't want it, no? We don't want, we feel like we are invaded, our privacy is invaded, our freedom is limited, no? As what we have uh, talked about earlier. And we don't want that. That's why there is this uh, conflict between us and the other. And then we try to meet at the middle, no? We try to reconcile with the other, but Sartre says here that this attempt is futile because there will always be a conflict, no? We cannot escape this unstable self-other dynamic relationship. Fourth part, having and doing. This final part connects these ontological ideas to practical life, values, and ethics. Being and doing. So here we understand the notion of freedom of Sartre. Sartre argues that humans create their own values through their free choices. There are no objective moral laws. The ultimate, though impossible, human project is to achieve the solid completeness of the in itself while retaining the consciousness of the for itself. To become a god, the ens causa sui, a pursuit Sartre calls a useless passion. So here, although Sartre calls this a useless passion, nevertheless he describes, no, he tells us what is our ultimate human project, no, which is again to become a god. And this is very interesting because he says that we are the ones creating our own values. No one is no one is no one has the right to tell us what we should do or who we truly are. No, we are the ones deciding because we are totally free. And there are no objective moral laws. Freedom and responsibility. The for itself is a nothingness without a predetermined essence or nature. It is radically free. So unlike the traditional idea or the traditional philosophy or the essentialists, this opposes the essentialists who As we know, no, essentials tell us that at the moment we're born, we already have a telos, we have a purpose, we have an essence, right? Even before we were born, no, and our fulfillment is through the conformity, no, is to our fulfillment is to conform according to our essence, no, to our purpose, our end. That is our fulfillment. But for here, Sartre says no. We are radically free and no, and we are not predetermined. Humans are condemned to be free, meaning they are entirely responsible for their choices and values. This realization brings anguish, an awareness of the immense weight of this total responsibility. Yes, this is interesting because, again, because of this radical freedom, we are condemned to be free. This is, we can connect this to bad faith, no? Because you are free, you cannot blame others for the consequences of your actions. No? You cannot say that, for example, you are a gun for hire, you're a hitman, you're a hitman. No? You cannot say that I kill I killed those people because someone told me to do so. No? Because my definition, my occupation is that I'm a gun for hire. That's why I killed them. No, you cannot say that because again, you're totally free, and then you are not. You cannot just reduce yourself to a mere definition. You are way more than that. In fact, you have infinite possibilities. You are way more than that. So this is what Sartre is telling us. And why does he have this notion that you are condemned to be free? Because with this uh, immense freedom comes responsibility. Immense freedom. With great freedom comes great responsibility. Eh, just like Spider-Man, no? It brings anguish because it puts a lot of weight in our decision making, no? Knowing that you have no one else to blame. You have no one else to blame. Conclusion. The book concludes that traditional metaphysics and a fixed human essence are dead. A phenomenological ethic must be developed based on the reality of human freedom and the call for authenticity. Well, now, as we go, we can go back to the main thesis of this book. No, existence precedes essence. This is revolutionary because all this time we've been taught that essence precedes existence. No, during the medieval period, we are always told that upon birth, we already have an end. But with here, with Sartre, it tells that we are blank space. We write our own story of ourselves. We define our own self. No one defines us but us. So you are free to think whatever you want or who you think you are. But at the same time, you should be responsible of your actions. So I think that's the main idea of this book. That's all for my report. Thank you.